On this edition of Native Report, we offer encore presentations of 3 stories on a related theme, sacred sites. We visit the Great Oak, a living, growing entity of cultural importance in Southern California. We visit Indian Mounds Park in St. Paul, Minnesota. And we learn about the rock art and petroglyphs of Red Rock Canyon in Nevada. We also learn something new about Indian country and hear from our elders on this Native Report.
Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee-Mdewakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, and the Blandin Foundation.
Welcome to Native Report. I'm Stacy Thunder. The Great Oak of the Pechanga Band of Luiseno Indians is a living entity that is revered for its cultural and spiritual significance. Estimated by some to be nearly 1,500 years old, this magnificent tree has come to embody the strength, wisdom, longevity, and determination of the Pechanga Band.
This is known as the Great Oak to local people and the Pechanga people, and it's a coastal live oak, but it's unlike any coastal live oak in existence. It's a spirit tree, it's a person in our belief.
On the Pechanga Reservation in Southern California is what appears to be several ordinary trees and bushes. But this is just one tree, and as you pull back the branches and walk under the canopy, you enter a very special place.
Some of the trees, like this one possibly, was one of the first people. The kamalam, they call them. There were different things. The fog, trees, certain rocks, and they were before death came into our world. I like to say that this is one of those trees from this time, because this is kind of analogy would be like the Lord of the Rings type of world. You know, it still has its roots in that world, and it's also staying here. For whatever reason, we don't know. People ask, well, how old is the tree? And we say, we don't know. Coastal live oaks grow in a certain way. Like even if you did those tree rings, cores or something, you can't really tell. Officially, we think it's 800 to 2,000 years old. Now, coastal live oaks, generally, they'll live to about 300 years, thereabouts. And if you ask the tree expert, dendrologists and other types, they says there's no way this kind of tree could live to be, over 1,000 years old. But in the next sentence will say, but we've never seen a tree like this either.
The land the Great Oak sits upon has a turbulent history. From a treaty that was signed but never ratified and later rejected by Congress, to the forced removal of the Pechanga from the valley, and to the creation of the Pechanga Reservation by executive order, the one constant has been the Great Oak itself.
Even when we were evicted in the 1880s and people were starving and from hunger and dying, in 1882 when the reservation was formed by executive order, it was a very cold and wet winter, and people were dying. And yet, we didn't cut these trees down for firewood. We wouldn't do that. One of the reasons is because our tradition, trees are people, and they sustain us. They helped us through drought, through famine, through our eviction to this side of the valley. This tree and the land surrounding it is still full of that magic that Indians, believe in.
In 2001, the Pechanga Tribal Council purchased the property and in 2003 had it placed into federal trust. It was their intention to preserve the tree and the surrounding land. This is one example of the cultural preservation efforts by the Pechanga Nation.
We're doing a number of things to try to save our ways, our culture, our language. Like most tribes, our language is in really, bad shape. California tribe's been decimated, and we're a very small tribe. And there's 6 Luiseno tribes, bands, and Pechanga is one of them. And some of the other bands still have older people, elders that speak the language, but they're in their 80s now, and Luiseno is their first language. And our tribe, most of our native-born speakers have gone. Yet we've developed these programs where we're instructing our children in the language in the cultural ways. When we're close to the public, we protect this area very closely, and you have to be invited in here and be our guests. We limit it to 20 people at a time because of the soil compaction issues.
As Dubois pointed out, the great oak isn't totally off limits. And for those who have been invited to visit the tree, its effect and meaning differs from individual to individual.
It has a sense of wisdom, it's ancient, it has a presence, and we've brought many people in here, and some people, they'll just start crying, men and women. And other people, it won't talk to them. And we try to share it with our friends and guests if they come in a respectful way, because it'd be wrong to completely close it off, because this is a live creature. Personally, this tree means to me that we're still centered and balanced. We're still trying to keep our ways. And Pechanga people have been on this land. Traditionally, we're known as Atacham, the people, or Payum Kawichim, when we're relating to other tribes, people of the West. And we've been on this land for at least 10,000 years. The archaeological record is 6,000 to 8,000. It keeps getting pushed further and further and further back. And so our presence is here. And if you walk among our land, you'll feel that. You'll feel there's something here. This tree being here still is telling us that we're still centered, or trying to be centered, and we're being pulled in many directions with the Western world, assimilation, acculturation, those type things. I'm an acculturated Indian, I'm Pechanga Indian, but yet I grew up in the Western world. I went to Western schools, graduate school, and all of that. But when I come here, it has a certain feel for me.
Did you know that Congress passed an act in 1978 to protect the traditional practices of Native Americans? The American Indian Religious Freedom Act was created to protect and preserve the traditional religious rights and cultural practices of American Indians, Eskimos, Aleuts, and Native Hawaiians. These rights include access to sacred sites and freedom to worship in traditional ways. Based on the First Amendment, the Act requires all federal agencies to eliminate interference with the free exercise of Native religion and to accommodate access to and use of sacred sites. While a 1988 Supreme Court case greatly weakened the American Indian Religious Freedom Act, in 1996, President Clinton signed an executive order which required federal agencies that manage lands to accommodate access to federal land for tribal sacred ceremonies. Since many American Indian religious ceremonies are site-specific, access to these sites is essential to their ability to worship.
Just minutes east of the state capitol building in St. Paul, Minnesota, is Indian Mounds Park, a series of 6 burial mounds atop a bluff overlooking the Mississippi River. They are silent reminders of a rich cultural history to future generations.
On this cool fall day, the solitude of Indian Mounds Park is occasionally broken by the hum of the nearby interstate and other noise from the city of St. Paul and the adjacent rail yard.
There are 4 types of mounds: conical mounds, linear mounds, compound mounds, and effigy mounds. And all of these mounds represent a life that was lived, you know, not just a single life, but a whole cultural life, a cultural way of life. There's a lot more to the mounds than just burials. An elder who recently passed away taught us that these mounds were used as landmarks.
The people who built the original mounds are said to be from the Hopewellian culture, distinct from modern native nations, but for the Dakota, there is still a connection to be made.
I know the scientists say that the Hopewellian people were there 1,500 to 2,000 years ago, but to we Dakota, those are just our predecessors. Those people were, to us, they were Dakota as well. The entire area was known to the Dakota people as Imamnesia Ska, which means the place with the white cliffs or white rocky cliffs. Indian Mounds Park to us was something we called Wichahapi. Pretty much what that means is it was the burying place or a cemetery. To most Dakota people, mounds are looked at as very sacred because that's where we have placed our ancestors for time immemorial.
These are the only surviving mounds. The others had either been looted or destroyed for development along the bluff. The exact number of mounds will never be known.
When Jonathan Carver first came here, he wrote in his notes that as he approached the top of the bluff line, he could smell the decomposing bodies that were on scaffolds back then when we still used scaffolds. It's a pretty special area, and I'm glad to see it's being taken care of after the mounds were destroyed. I think today there are only 6 mounds, and those 6 mounds have been reconstructed. Early numbers I've heard go anywhere from 58 up to like 178 mounds at one time were up there. Whether those numbers are accurate or not, no one's ever really going to know, because they have been disturbed since the mid-1800s. The last time I was up there, I saw that they put in a nice contemporary-looking American Indian sculpture, and it appears as though someone could go to that sculpture and leave an offering. And I think that's really a great idea to keep in mind our ancestors, because it's their sacrifices and their lives that allow us to be here today.
As Wabasha stated, the existing mounds have been rebuilt, and care has been taken over the years to not disturb those, as well as a cave below the bluff, any further.
That area is also significant to us because of what today is called Carver's Cave or the Bruce Vento Nature Sanctuary. There's a cave in the side of the bluffs there. We call that Wakantipi, or House of the Spirits. We believe that one of our spirits, known as Unchtechi, lived there. And eons ago, early Dakota people would go there to fast or to pray, to meditate, to do something we call hambadecha. But as time passed, it was left alone. The railroad was in there for a number of years, and they destroyed the opening of the cave. Early reports documented by non-Indian people say that there were petroglyphs and things of that sort in there. Those, I believe, are gone, but it's walled off now. But hopefully we'll be making that into an interpretive center at an old structure that was there. But through efforts of the City of St. Paul and various local neighborhood groups, it's being cleaned up. I'm really glad to see that the City of St. Paul and the Lower Phelan Creek people are refurbishing that area, trying to bring it back to a natural state.
These earthen mounds are mute witnesses to a changing landscape, a changing culture, a changing world, and our relationship with all of those.
The mounds at Indian Mounds Park are just one example of how we had a relationship with the earth, because the word in Dakota for earth is maka, and I had heard a relative from out west, West River, talk about that word maka, and he taught that there's two parts to that word, ma and ka. Ma being a sense of being, and ka a sense of what used to be. And so you put them together, and that's where you get the word earth, which is where we come from and where we go when we leave this earth. They say the earth is sacred, and because we put our people there, that's just one more element that makes them sacred.
Our tribe was the first tribe to ever sign a treaty with the United States in September of 1778. And we had additionally 20 more treaties signed with the United States, all of which were broken. The sad part about that is our federal recognition was, well, actually it wasn't taken away from us. There was never any list called a list of federally recognized tribes until 1979. And the Good Bureau of Indian Affairs failed to put the tribe that signed the first treaty with the United States on that list. We had to work from 79 to 1996 to get it back. And then in 2005, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled against us in a court case, and they took it away again. So, but we did recover it about a year and a half ago.
West of Las Vegas is Red Rock Canyon National Conservation Area, which offers visitors some truly spectacular and breathtaking scenery. The canyon is also known for rock art and petroglyphs, and while their true meaning may be lost to history, they force the viewer to ponder the question of who made these and why.
A cold wind blew across Red Rock Canyon as Kenny Anderson of the Las Vegas Paiute tribe walked toward an outcrop bearing images from long ago.
This is probably one of the ways that the Paiute people went back and forth from Las Vegas to Pahrump, one of the trails that they used. And as you can see, we have petroglyphs on this side, and what we call it in Southern Paiute is tupi piokant. That means riding on the rocks. And each petroglyph or writing or pictograph has different meanings. Some are painted, some are like packed into the surface. And basically some of them are just telling things about what you need to know, the area, like if there's bighorn. There's water sources and trail systems.
Some of the images are easily identifiable, while others are cryptic. Best estimates date many of these as thousands of years old.
It's basically like red paint, red ochre. Get it from different sources, either from like red colored dirt, you know, and mix it up with some other liquids to form the paint. They're all through southern Nevada, southern Utah, northern Arizona, southern California, all around this whole area. Some believe that the spirit of this mountain, or the mountains, where the people actually did these things to help people. And some people think other people came and put them on there. There's actually some that are sort of like in the late 1800s, and then they're depicting the slave trading that was happening in the southern Nevada to the Paiutes. And it just shows basically a wagon with people tied behind it.
Red Rock Canyon is not tribal land. The Bureau of Land Management, however, consults with the Southern Paiute and other native nations regarding the rock art.
The BLM has a site stewardship program for these areas that people go out and basically monitor them. We don't want to call too much attention to what's here actually. You know, the less of a sign going up saying petroglyphs here is a better thing, you know, and not to have them broadcast or say, this is where you can see petroglyphs, you know. The people who come out to see these things usually are sort of like aware, you know, of the history, and there's other people who aren't, and they just like to destroy things, you know. A lot of people don't understand when they come into areas like this that, you know, people were here long before they were ever, you know, thought of coming to Vegas or southern Nevada. And they should show respect to these sites. The people who actually do these things are destroying history. Besides the native history, it's the American history too. So they're just destroying their own history.
The people who created these images are gone, but Anderson still feels a strong bond connecting the present to the past.
When I bring people out here like the elders, it is just reconnects us to the land, you know, because they weren't put here by people that we don't know. I mean, they're the relatives of us, of the native people in this area. So it connects us, and it shows that, you know, we've been here forever. We still have a lot of Paiutes around here, and we're still here, and this is our homeland. It makes me feel good that we're still here, that we can actually tell our younger kids, you know, our history. We need to, you know, explain to the children or even the young adults their purpose and who they are, and to help them connect with their life, and to have a better understanding for them to, like, when they grow up, or, you know, this is who we are and this is what we believed, and we're not lost. We have a purpose here.
Year after year, sacred landscapes that are integral to the exercise of Indian religions are being destroyed and are under threat by development, pollution, recreation, vandalism, and other public and private actions. There is no comprehensive, effective policy and no federal statute for the express purpose of preserving and protecting sites such as Petroglyph National Monument in New Mexico, Serpent Mound in Ohio, San Francisco Peaks in Arizona, and many others. The National Congress of American Indians seek to amend the American Indian Religious Freedom Act to ensure that federal laws protecting the free exercise of religion include protection of traditional Native American sacred places, where ceremonies, commemorations, observances, or worship are conducted or occur, and to provide a right of action to protect such places. Furthermore, in 2010, NCAI adopted a resolution urging Congress to pass legislation allowing Native nations the ability to protect their sacred places through the courts, and urges President Obama to call on Congress to enact a right of action and revise the existing executive order on sacred sites to issue a strengthened executive order. The 2010 NCAI resolution states, "Protecting sacred places is necessary for the survival of traditional religions, cultures, and lifeways, and our identity and status as sovereign nations."
For more information about Native Report or the stories we've covered, look for us on the web at nativereport.org. Thank you for spending this time with your friends and neighbors in Indian Country. I'm Stacy Thunder. See you next time on Native Report.
Stacy Thunder is a member of and legal counsel for the Red Lake Nation, and Tad Johnson is a member of the Boys Fort Band of Chippewa and is chair for the American Indian Studies Department on the campus of the University of Minnesota Duluth.